8:14. It's Tuesday, October 24, 2023, and never let it be said that I diss the rain. Might cause some inconvenience, but on another level, we can't be what you call it? We can't be salty when it rains. You know?
I could definitely say it's raining outside.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, you trust me, it was really good. I got you.
Yes.
Big time.
So at least we can't get that wrong today. You know. So pleasant morning to everybody. I trust that everyone is safe and well. It is really another day here. It is October the 24th, 2023, and just sending out positive energy, positive vibe to everyone who is listening. Our program here this morning, Island Tea, it is really an opportunity for us to seize the moment. You know, we have to be grateful considering that we were spared the devastating effects of Hurricane Tammy, and so we're here. We have an opportunity to start our work day again, and to do what we can. It's a bit of rain. Some persons are appreciative of the rain. Cooler mornings, at least this morning. So much to give thanks for. As we look at some of the items in the news, we see that it says here, regionally, St. Vincent and the Grenadines PM continues to press for visa-free travel to Canada. So the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Rolf Gonzalez, made his feelings known to Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau over Vincentians still not being eligible for visa-free travel to Canada, while questionable persons
former Nazis or Nazis from European countries.
So this is the
can enter Canada without a visa. But the children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren of Robert Milton Cato, who was a member of the Canadian Armed Forces, who fought the Nazis in the Second World War, that we can have a visa-free access. We either have to have a U.S. visa on which we can get an electronic travel authorization, which helps only about 10% of the population, approximately. That's the estimate. Or you get your visa in the way in which I applied for mine, in order to go to the summit. I say, surely, if we want to...
So you see how it is, right? When I opened the Loop News, it was playing. So I said, might as well
But no, he raises a good point.
Mm-hmm.
He raises a good point.
And I know that was something that persons were saying when you look at the social media, that, the prime ministers that are going there, should raise that point in terms of the access to Canada.
The last time I went back to Canada, I didn't need a visa. If I have to go back, though, I have to get a visa.
I think it's you have to apply
or
online.
Whatever, not a visa, but ETA.
Yeah, you have to do the electronic. You have to do the electronic means and go to the website.
And who's responsible for that? They put him back in government. Something is wrong with y'all.
So, there's another article that I'm looking for. It's really as it relates to the CBI, because there has been much talk about the CBI program, and there was an article that was there speaking on it. That over the weekend or sometime recently. So this article is by immediately.com, and it says no passport and no money back retroactively rejected St. and Nevis CBI applicants start petition. So it says here that a large group of Russian, Ukrainians and Bulgarians applicants who applied for St. Kitts Nevis citizenship through the country's citizenship program by investment have started an online petition to get their money back after the applications were retroactively denied by the St. Kitts Nevis CIU. The applicants say that CIU has yet to refund their donation money. Until March last year, St. Kitts and Nevis citizenship by investment, CIU, still accepted citizenship applications from investors from Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. In November 2022, however, many of these applicants received official letters from the CIU informing them that their applications would no longer be processed. This measure proved retroactive, affecting even investors who had already received approval for the application. The CIU notified them that they had halted the application process and that the citizenship would not be granted. And it says, the founder of Migraines, who represents many of the affected claims, pointed out that the retroactive nature of the measure contradicts with the letter of the law. And so there's another thing that says, since any CIU unlawfully withholding donation funds from retroactive rejected applicants. And it says, more dishearteningly, several of the applicants in question had already paid their requisite fees and even the required donation funds. They say that the CIU has yet to reimburse more than 18 months later. Initially, CIU informed applicants that they would receive refunds for their donations, which at the time amounted to a minimum of $150,000 US. Due to diligent fees and other costs relating to the applications, which amount to tens of thousands of dollars, were not reimbursable. As of today, not one single member of, I think it's pronounced Levitt, firm affected clients have received the promised refunds. Other firms with Russia, Ukraine, clients with whom I has been in touch, but who declined to speak on the record, confirmed similar experiences. Yeah.
That's actually pretty interesting because I just thought of something, a semi-funny thing about that whole thing. You know what might be insult to injury for one of those nationalities? The Ukrainians might be a little pissed to be lumped in with Russians and Belarusians. Well, given what's going on now,
Yes.
because they're firmly against Russia and Belarus, but it's going to be interesting to see how that.
We have reached out. I have reached out to the head of the CIU, Mr. Martin. He indicated that he wouldn't be available this week and perhaps sometime next month. So. As we continue to get the information,
sounds like an extinguishing tactic to me.
As we continue to hold out for the information, all we could do is see what is being placed out there and hoping that there is a response, whenever soon, by the unit to bring these matters to some sort of light to the Federation, because we're hearing from other sources. We're seeing videos being created by persons who have applications out there from St. Kitts and Nevis and who have not, based on what they have said, received any reimbursement. And so we can only go on what is being said out there regarding this matter, as at least there's nothing that was said. Speaking to Mr. Martin, asking for a statement, he said, well, this was in March of 2022, the government made a decision to halt all processing of the Russian, Ukraine, and Belarus citizens. They said this year, he said the administration has been addressing the matter and it is still in the hands of the financial secretary. So that was a brief conversation I had with him, but I'm still waiting to see something official being put out there.
And you do know that the property on South Square Street is Russian owned.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
That's being built at the moment, and they also own something on North Square Street. In fact, the area where the either Russians or Ukrainians people here, I've noticed that Kittitians tend to lump them together. Prior to the war, I think maybe now there might be people might be aware of a more pronounced distinction between Russians and Ukrainians, but they own some property on North Square Street as well. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. I think where the the food trucks, where the food trucks are. That's
north.
their property as well. Yeah. And the
Okay.
building, the old gallery. Yeah, that's what I was told. Yeah. You didn't know?
No.
Okay, yeah. So
yes.
So you notice you said that this action is retroactive, so it means that maybe investment activity, like the stuff that's going on now, that might have already be in play, will be affected. So that's going to be interesting to see how that works out.
I mean, think about it this way: you at the time that you made the application, at the time the application was made, you paid these monies, and then afterwards you're hearing, no, well, we can't do this now, and you're asking back for your monies, and you're saying, well, there's no,
They should just give them back their money as well.
So really and
Just give
truly,
them back their money.
really and truly, a statement, an official statement, I think, need to be made, and
Yeah.
I think that a response. Hopefully, later next month,
Okay.
we could have a conversation, because we're
Yeah,
trying
let's
to
hope
touch
so.
all the sides. We're not just trying to bring stories that are out there. We're trying to go to the source and trying to ask the questions that need to be asked.
On a more positive note, today is the Rotary Club of St. Kitts. They're celebrating. Today is World Polio Day, and the Rotarians worldwide wear purple in solidarity and support of Rotary's continuing fight to eradicate the disease. Someone from the Rotary Club asked me to mention this, so
Okay, that's nice.
I think because polio is one of those things that is kind of weirdly
Yeah.
making its way back. Nowhere near what it used to be in the you could say the first half of the 20th century, but it's kind of creeping back very slowly. Yeah. Speaking of which, there's been a bunch of diseases that we thought were extinct, which have been popping up. The plague, I heard, the plague. What else? Yellow fever, I heard.
I know,
and a couple other
they
things.
said that,
Just coming back, mumps.
Wow.
Imagine that. I don't know if you know, but did I send you the
Which
link
one that?
for the consultation for the
Last-
creative?
Oh yeah, I actually watched it.
Oh, you watched it? Good, because I was wondering,
last
because I
night.
watched,
Yeah.
I watched about 70% of it, I think.
Oh, what you thought about it?
How come you didn't bring that up? Because
I-
I was even
I
saying,
was
because
like-
when I was saying, when
Uh-huh.
I was going to send it to you, I was saying, he probably got briefs and stuff to do, and this is like 2.5 hours. He probably
Yeah, it
not
was
gonna get-
long. I actually
But
looked.
it was interesting. It was interesting.
It was interesting.
Oh.
I listened to it. I actually came in during the question part when persons were getting up and questioning the
Yeah.
display. That's when I really.
Also, you didn't watch from the beginning.
No,
At least you could go back and watch
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So tell me because I
Well-
don't want to start from the end. So you tell me.
One of the problems, I would say, I mean, I think you know how a lot of times people who can't speak English too well, you usually can pass what they're trying to say, right?
Yeah.
But I think because of some of the technical considerations and the technical language required, I think a lot of the technical stuff might not have been clear because of the language barrier. But at first, I remember thinking, well, where is this going to be? And that was the first question that Farron Lawrence answered.
So where is it going to be?
It's going to be over there in Neesmas, up on the hill, in the vicinity of the Bailey residence. Just to give you an idea, I go jogging up there, and so there's a road that goes up right onto the hill. Like when I go jogging, we used to use that as a steeplechase track. I don't even know if
You mean
PHS
close?
uses that stuff.
You mean close where the previous administration talked about the Bassett High School around that area?
No.
Oh.
Neesmas. That's Ponds.
Yeah.
What you're talking about is Ponds, but Neesmas is okay. How should I? The street that Azard, come on! You don't live in St. Kitts.
You mean close by? You mean
Think
close,
about the hill that separates.
You mean by flow area?
No. Think about the hill across the cane field that separates Frigate Bay from the Bastille Valley.
Okay.
That whole hill that goes across
that's
and comes
to
down
me,
by.
that's you mean along the Kim Collins Highway area?
No, not well.
Because that's
Not really, because it's going to be the hill, the far eastern hill,
okay. Yeah.
and it's going to be built. It's a very interesting design.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of questions and a lot of misgivings about it. And did you hear the question about someone asked a question about the fact that someone said it seemed more like a shopping mall.
Yeah, I heard that comment. Actually, was going to bring it up this morning. I was, but I didn't. I'm glad you bring it up. Yeah. So based on the questions, because I didn't hear from the initial, so I didn't hear. I didn't get a chance to hear from the initial start of it, but I heard from the questions. Because I was going through the Facebook and then I saw it and I said, "Oh, it's happening today." And I saw Carla making presentations and other persons making presentations.
Oh, Carla was brutal.
Yeah.
Her first comment was brutal.
Yeah.
Which is what we need.
And
yes. You know, our the powers that be, the politicians, they need to not be thin-skinned about stuff like this, because a lot of times when these things happen, it comes across like, well, this is what we're giving you, and take it or leave it. And then when we voice our misgivings, we comment, we ask questions, they bristle and they get defensive. But
I remember one person within the arts indicated that it seemed more like a shopping mall than a place for.
Yeah. But Farron explained that because actually, when the person said it, I kind of knew what Farron was going to say, and he did. He said, "Well, remember that this building has to pay for itself, and so those spaces will facilitate that." There's a lot more. There's going to be a lot more clarification.
Someone made the point about carnival as well. And I know these individuals, but I choose just to keep it, like that. Someone made the point also that, what about carnival? Would it be able to facilitate carnival when they looked at the number of persons that the current plans would accommodate? I think they were saying it would only accommodate maybe like 600 or so persons, how it stands now.
Yes.
And so one person raised a question, what about carnival? There is need for a facility to actually host a lot of these carnival events, and 600 would be under the mark for the audience, because when you look at the talented teen competition just last year, thousands of persons were in attendance of that. I know that there was another person who indicated that it seemed like they expected it to be a space where it is that creativity could be developed. It seemed like more to that individual that those persons who are already creative would go there. But what about the
process that gets you to the performance and to the end?
Someone raised those issues. So I mean, these are things to be considered. I mean, and consultation is good to hear from persons.
But to be fair, the developers did say that they'll take everything set on board. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, good morning.
833, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that what's it, the cultural center?
Yeah, well, performing arts center.
Right, should be multi-purpose and be able to accommodate. I mean, we don't have a lot of land space to play with as it is. So whatever is built should really be multi-purpose and take into account the multiplicity of activities that should be able to go on there. When you were describing the hills, are you talking about the Connery Range?
That's
yes, the Connery Range, yes.
Okay.
Oh, because I said need must.
So would it be closer to where Gateway Inn is, or closer to the Connery side?
That is a good. Yes, I see what you're saying.
The playing facilities are.
That is a good question, because I was trying to suss out if it was more on the southern side of the Connery Range or the northern side, northeastern side. That wasn't quite clear. Although they did say, but that still didn't really bring clarity. They said that you'll be able to access it via the half moon side, as well as the typical sides that we use. Like I'm
Oh, well,
assuming
it's going to be accessible from the half moon side.
as well.
It
Yeah,
sounds like it's more to the south.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. But then the architect Darian Fleming, he referenced something which made me think that I was wrong in thinking it would be on this outside. He said something about, he was talking about, which he raised a lot of great technical points actually. As an architect, he talked about ventilation and so on, and but he was. I got the impression, I could be wrong, that he seemed to be thinking that it was going to be on the northeastern side.
Northeastern side.
But then no, I don't think this space is there for that, because there's a house. There's a house up there just at the bend to go down by the football field. So if you look at that area, I don't think. Yeah, there's not. Yeah, so it has to be the southern side.
That's worth thinking about. And I don't. Do you know if it's government land?
Oh, that's the other thing which gave me pause in that. They said that the developers had already secured the land, so they had already bought the land and so on.
Okay.
So
it's actually private land then.
Yeah. So
that's going to be interesting. Essentially, public is going to involve a lot of public and cultural things.
Yeah.
And it's going to be owned privately.
Well, I'm not. I'm not sure of this the semantics that would describe. I'm not sure the semantics. I can't quite recall the semantics that describe how that's going to work. If it's a public,
I guess we'll eventually get more details.
Yeah.
But I liked the comment you made about just give them back their money. I mean, man, if it only was that simple, you're assuming that we have the money to give them back their money, right? I suspect that money gone a long time.
Wow.
It's not so easy to just give them back their money. I suspect if it was easy to do that, it would be done already. Because obviously we can't afford, that's a financial instrument, so to speak, institution, so to speak. And you know how easy it is for financial institutions to get bloody nose.
But here's the thing we haven't mentioned and that we don't know. It could be that these agreements include contractual, clauses which speak to it being non-refundable. It's possible.
No. But you can't provide a service.
Yeah.
And
no, it could be. I'm not saying it is.
Remember too, Jams, that this way is governed by legislation.
Mm-hmm.
It's governed by legislation.
Right.
So, again, I think we extended the invitation to the head of the CIU to, hopefully that the head comes here sometime, and that we could really go into.
The thing is, though, Azard, you'd expect that something like this, they'd be out front, not coming in for damage control. And this keeps happening.
Sadly.
You don't release information. You don't, even though you say you would, you don't let people know what's going on. You leave yourself open to speculation. You leave yourself open to what's happening now with this. I suppose it's a legal thing now. It's a lawsuit or whatever it is. And bad propaganda against the country. And that's all because you're not open and transparent. Right? And you're not, and you're, whether it's your PR or communications network, and not ahead of the game, they drop the ball, and so they have to play catch up. And it keeps happening. Something really needs to be done about it. I mean, you can't just have these things appearing in the foreign press for something as sensitive as that, appearing in the foreign press and then having to do all kind of cleanup and damage control.
And that's the thing, Mr. McMahon, and this is every time persons like you would say things like that, my mind flashes back to the 2022 election when it all was about for this administration transparency, accountability, good governance, and this is the time to put those things in play.
Yes.
And we're seeing, I don't want to say, we're seeing, to me, even worse than before. And so there was criticism by this Labour Party that better it would be with them and better is to be expected. And when the opportunity presents itself for them to actually do better, nothing happens.
It makes you wonder if, you can go in with all kinds of good intentions, but there's something about those offices that just, I don't know, I don't want to say corrupt you, but Gospat said that, but make you just become another run-of-the-mill politician, evasive, just doing things that going to make you look good, not essentially coming straight out and saying that, well, I made a mistake. And I'm sorry, apologies, and that kind of thing.
I have my entry. I have my entry for the DSM ready. I have my entry, the DSM. The manual where the psychologists and so add stuff to describe. I call it post election get the bag syndrome. Because that's all that consumes them.
Because
that kind of answers the question.
At the end of the day,
so
many opportunities have presented itself for this administration to really lead by what they have said that they would do, And at the end of the day, you hear nothing. You hear the news outside, persons talking about it before we even know as citizens, and that is unfortunate.
I mean, look what happened.
Yeah, and not only that. I mean, whenever politicians do that and make fools of they essentially make fools of the electorate. Saying one thing, promising one thing, and then just doing the next are the same. It makes the electorate look foolish.
And then this is a situation.
And unfortunately, they have to wait 5 years to pay back.
And this is a situation, Mr. McMahon, where, the issue of our passport is about, sinks and leaves, about citizenship, and it is an issue that is of great public interest, and something of this magnitude at least allow the citizenry to be able to know what is going on, not to hear it from somebody who is an applicant who is frustrated about the process, and now it goes to international news.
I noted, when I read the article, I noted that it seemed as if we've been under-reporting, even when we did report, I think sometime in 2018 maybe, it seems as if we under-reported the numbers sold, okay? They accused us, and I think might have been Dominica, of under-reporting, which then which may help to explain why there's so much secrecy. If it's under-reported, the age-old question, well, where the rest of the money gone? It's not good. And I really hope they'll come up with some official statement soon that clears the air, if that's going to be possible.
Yeah, well, we reached out because, oftentimes, we bring these issues to the fore, and, we try to at least reach out to try to get a response. I guess our response isn't forthcoming now. I mean, I did get a message from Mr. Martin, and I read that indicating that, in March of 2022, a decision was made to halt all processes of applicants from Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine. The new administration has been addressing the matter, and it is now in the hands of the financial secretary. So.
Yeah. Well, don't be fazed by delay tactics. You got to be relentless. You got to be persistent. I mean, that's at some point, yes, they're going to have to come out and say exactly what the position is. but the media have to be persistent.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
Yeah, they absolutely
Have to ask the tough questions.
Otherwise, you're going to get brushed off. Hit a stone wall, and that's it. You know, and we really, that's not, you know, we don't expect that from an open and transparent and accountable administration.
And you know, that's what,
because of that.
Remember, you would call in and talk about legislation even before this administration took office, and you talk about good governance legislation and, you know, putting in legislation, but at the end of the day, you put it and
the application of it.
Yes.
You know, yes.
And
because all these legislations have apparently are loopholes. I mean, have loopholes, and in the final analysis, is who's going to be administering it. If the persons are willing to let things pass, let things slide, you know, just go with the flow and that kind of thing, don't break eggs, you'll never get the omelet made. You'll never ever, you know, get things done correctly. I think that is the situation we're in right now. You know, by now, that CBI thing should have been cleaned up in such a way that we don't have these kinds of things coming out at this stage. You know, it's really unfortunate.
It's really unfortunate.
It's the whole country. You know, the whole country gets a black eye for it.
Yeah.
You know, but anyway, and the thing is, whereas you think, as you pointed out earlier, the things like visa-free access and so on becomes important. I still maintain that the fact that St. Vincent seemed to be doing pretty well, even though they don't have a CBI, that should be instructive. You know, we should really be concentrating on looking at things after a CBI, because
we really would have to.
It's as plain as day that the West, the European powers, the European North Americans don't like these programs. And, you know, they're doing everything to chip away at it, short of course, infringing World Trade Organization rules, which, of course, they themselves are the ones who put those rules in place. So they don't want to infringe their own rules, but at the same time, they know they don't like those programs. They prefer if they didn't exist, full stop. And so we should be preparing for life after, just like how we prepared, we had life after sugar. We should be preparing for life after the CBI, because, you know, they are not popular programs. They're good for us, as it has been.
Okay.
But they're not popular programs.
Yeah. Okay, Mac, we have to stop. We have a guest now who really should have arrived before, but okay.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna take the break, and then we'll get right back with the program.
October, and the TDC Home and Building Depot has gone pink in support of breast cancer awareness. Shop in-store or online for our pink tag specials with up to 75% off selected items. And be sure to look out for our Flash Sales Fridays, where you get even more savings. Plus, every Saturday from 10 a.m. till 12 p.m., our team of health professionals will be in-house, offering free breast screening and the chance to win a free mammogram. So this October, remember to think pink. Think TDC Home and Building Depots. Terms and conditions apply. See stores for details.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
10 minutes until 9 o'clock, and we have our next guest lined up. We're trying to get the Nivision counterpart on the phone. We're just trying to get them to call in. It's all about the what do they call them?
They're the junior ministers of tourism, and so they won their competition here in St. Kitts and then in Nevis, and then represented St. Kitts and then represented Nevis in the competition that we had just a while ago. So I'm going to allow the representative from St. Kitts to introduce herself and tell us about the competition and the experience. She's here with her teacher as well. Oh, yes. So tell us your name, tell us the school that you represent, and how has the experience been for you?
Well, good morning. My name's Cameron Adane, and I represented the Washington Archibald High School. And the experience was very fun, actually. It was nice to be able to meet with people from different countries and hear them speak about the interesting things that they have in their country. And just being able to go and travel was just something that I normally don't do. So it was a very fun experience.
So tell me, how was it competing against the other schools here in St. Kitts?
It was very nerve-wracking. I was nervous when I went up on stage, but I still performed to the best of my ability.
Okay, awesome. And your message, your focus was what in your speech when it came to tourism? What was your focus?
It was how we could build a sustainable workforce after the COVID-19 crisis.
Interesting. And what were some of the ways that you proposed?
Some of the ways we proposed were I'm trying to remember it from the speech.
Yes. But then you also spoke about, because I remember from the article, Nevis raised about the botanical gardens, and you raised about what was your main focus? I know Nevis was botanical garden. Was your main focus Prince Hill? It was something here in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Was it impromptu?
Oh, the impromptu,
St.
yeah.
Kitts Music Festival.
Yes, the St. Kitts Music Festival. So tell me about that. Tell me about the impromptu and tell me about the competition. So you won against persons here in St. Kitts and then represented St. Kitts at that regional competition. Tell me about the experience there. Tell me about that.
About how the impromptu, well, they kind of changed up the rules from how they had it in St. Kitts. So we didn't have any time to gather our thoughts before answering. So I kind of had to think on my feet. And honestly, I was very nervous, especially since they didn't let us really calm down before. And it was random too, so you never knew when they were going to call on you. So you always had to be ready. And I think my other competitors gave some good answers. They all tried their best, and so did I. Even though in the end, it didn't really, allow me to place.
Yes, but still you represented your country, and by the way in which you're speaking here this morning, I'm sure quite well. How about the experience as it relates to, you indicated about traveling. It gave you the opportunity to travel and to interact with persons. How was that for you?
It was a new experience. I've never really traveled that much before, so going to Turks and Caicos was very exciting. The beaches there are really beautiful as well.
Wow. Okay then, and tell me also about some of the participants. How were those persons, the engagement with those persons who also would hold the title that you hold? How was the engagement?
Well, some of them were surprisingly quiet, while others were, loud and outgoing. But in general, I feel like everybody was friendly and tried their best to get along, despite us obviously having to compete against each other just the next day.
Mm-hmm. Nice, nice. And what about what are your plans? Like you have won the competition. What are you seeing as your plan?
Well, I've already talked with the Minister of Tourism, and she said that she'd like to include me in more things.
Awesome. That's really nice. How did that make you feel?
Make me feel important.
Awesome, awesome. And what are some of the things that you like to see done in tourism for St. Kitts?
Well, I'd like to see us using more of our locals and not exactly relying on foreigners in order to fund our projects and whatnot.
Okay, then. Is there any place in St. Kitts, historical place that you like in St. Kitts?
Bloody Point.
What about Bloody Point?
I like the story behind it.
Okay, then. It's a rich story, rich history. What about so Miss Greenaway, you assisted in the preparation of the student?
Well, to some extent, yes, but I cannot take all of the credit for the preparation. Much of the speech preparation in terms of having her have the correct diction and voice modulation and all of that, that credit goes to Mrs. Sherry Woods, who would have spent ample time preparing her outside of school hours, actually. And so I have to give a lot of the credit to Mrs. Woods because she has a knack for getting students to pause at the right place, speed up, slow down. She just has a knack for it, and so I have to give her the credit.
Kudos to Mrs. Woods. She's still there. That's good. Awesome. That was my literature teacher back in fifth form.
Yes.
Yes, and fourth form. Yes, wonderful. So I want to say to you, congratulations.
Thank you.
It's really a wonderful experience, I'm sure, to have won that competition and to represent your country, your island, St. Kitts. And I say that because we have another ambassador, and in the person, we're trying to get her on. So what we're going to do,
pity we couldn't get her on the phone.
Yeah.
We might have to do that separately.
yeah, we might have to do that separately, but it's still an opportunity to showcase the talent and the young people here in St. Kitts and Nevis and what you guys are doing. Really good work. So I want to encourage you to keep up the good work.
Thank
You now hold the title of Junior Minister of Tourism, and with the approach that the minister has, asked you to, give your views, take the opportunity and as much try to dialogue and see what plans, looking through fresh eyes could be given.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And just for the record, the Nevis Junior Minister of Tourism is Rucha Sharma from the Charlestown Secondary School. And once again, we want to say thank you to Cameron Ordain from the Washington Archibald High School. So hopefully we'll try and hook up with Rucha tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll see what the issue was, and we'll try to solve it.
Get the sister island perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
my homeland.
Yes.
So we have 1 minute coming up until 9 o'clock, and it's time for your weekly dose.
Yeah, weekly dose.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is WIN FM.
Life is unpredictable. When a serious illness strikes, such as cancer, heart attack, or stroke, the Family Critical Illness Plan from Kuna Caribbean Insurance can provide an extra layer of financial protection for you and your family against out-of-pocket expenses. Select a plan that fits your needs and get up to $90,000 in coverage. No medical examination is required. Contact your credit union or one of their approved family indemnity plan providers to enroll today. To learn more, call 466-9453 or visit their website at kunacaribbean.com. Kuna Caribbean Insurance, for all people.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
It's 1 minute after 9 o'clock. It's time for your weekly dose. After all that rain and downtime on the weekend. And did I mention rain? It's time for a wholesome dose of Doctor.
Yes.
Good morning.
And the weekly dose for the month of October, because it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, it's a whole feature. So from the start of October to the end of October, doctors are going to feature breast cancer, and it's the awareness of the cancer. So I was wondering, because usually I get a message from Dr. Osborne, and I'm like, is she coming today? Usually she already messaged. I'll get all the information, and then I see her come up, we're not alone, and I see her with this big bowl. It's this big bowl. and I'm like, oh, no wonder. We're going to have a bit of a spontaneous moment in here, because this bowl has questions, and the questions in here set by the doctors, but they don't know which one they're going to get.
That could almost be a tennis trophy, and that's a compliment. Has that kind of,
it's a nice silver bowl.
That's our bowl designated for this show, Weekly
Dose.
Yes. So this week we're here again once more. I think this is the last Tuesday we've got in the month of August, and this is to wrap up our Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We've been here every week with different invited guests. Dr. Leon is here again with us today. I'm happy to have her here.
Good morning, everybody.
And it is just to wrap up and to reinforce some of the stuff that we would have learned over the last 4 weeks, and to continue to encourage our community members, those who have not gotten their screening mammography as yet, they need to go and get it. And just a reminder, and just to let everybody know we've enjoyed this month of breast cancer awareness. And not just for this month, we continue supporting the persons who are dealing with the breast disease once this month has passed. We continue to do screening. We continue to examine the breast. So it's not just in the month of October, but all year round, breast cancer awareness is important.
Yes, it's important that you say that, because although we recognize, because you have to be very careful with the words. Although we recognize and emphasize breast cancer awareness in the month of October, awareness is every month.
Yes.
And it's just emphasized in October.
Yes.
And and recognized for what it is. And so let's try, as you said, to have those checkups as often as possible.
Yes. Okay.
So we're going to start with it. It's not like a game show, but I'm going to try to see how we could get it done today. So
you have me nervous now. You're shaking that bowl.
Me too.
They don't know who's going to be getting the question, because it could be any one of them. So I am going to start off with this one. So let's see what it says. These medical terms are always tongue twisters. So this one is for you, Dr. Osborne. And it says, what is a mastectomy, and what is the goal of breast cancer surgery?
Okay, what is a mastectomy? I know that is a little bit different. Mastectomy.
Yes.
Okay, so a mastectomy is the removal of the breast nipple areola complex during a surgery for treatment for breast cancer. So it means that you're going to remove the breast and the nipple and the areola and some of the nodes or the glands under the arm. And that is part of the treatment, the first line treatment for breast cancer. And the other part of the question asks about the importance of it. The importance of it is first to remove the central tumor or the tumor that begins to cause the problem. That is the most important thing. You've got to remove all of the tissue, the tumoral tissue, and have healthy margins. And it's also important as well in terms of staging, because as you get your information from the tumor, the size of the tumor, whether there is spread to the lymph nodes under the axilla, as you take some of those lymph nodes, it will give you all of the information from the pathologist in terms of making a staging, because your staging is important for your treatment.
Thank you so much, doctor. I'm going to ask another question coming from this bowl. And all of these medical terms, tongue twisters, some of them.
That's okay, that's okay. It's all part of our growth and learning.
So here we go again. Okay, so this is for Dr. Leon. Leon, you're up. You ready?
Why not?
Okay, good. And so he says, besides surgery, what are the other treatments available for breast cancer? So besides surgery, what are the other treatments available for breast cancer?
So that is an important question because we have different tools in order to treating cancer. We can use surgery, as you mentioned it before, and we also can use radiotherapy. We have different modality of radiotherapy. We can use intraoperative radiation, and we also can use external beam radiation. We also have hormonal therapy treatment. That treatment is for that patients who have a estrogen and receptor positive and progesterone receptor positive. And we use immunotherapy and target therapy. That is more advanced treatment when we treat in patients who have a specific mutation that need to be addressed with a specific treatment. So basically, that is the tools that we have.
This actually feels like you're on one of those Miss Universe or this contestants when you have a random question coming up. Yes.
And they don't know which one is going to get the question. So I'm going to go back over here. And I have this question. Dr. Leon, you're on the spot again. So this question reads, I'm going to repeat it twice. It says, what is triple negative breast cancer? What is triple negative breast cancer?
Well, triple negative cancer is one of the rare subtype of cancer we have. We must have to say that we use immunohistochemistry in order to classify patients in different subgroups of the disease. And triple negative, the characteristic for this group is that they have three things negative, right? They have estrogen receptor negative, progesterone receptor negative, and they also have the gene that we call HER2 negative. So that means that the patient, in that cases, we call that, we putting in that subgroup of patient. What is the characteristic of this patient? That in the disease here is more aggressive, right? And we only have one tool to treat the disease because we only can use chemotherapy because the patient doesn't respond to other treatment because they don't have receptors, so we cannot use hormonal therapy. And the tools that we have are really, really limited in order to treating patients. And most of the time, the patient with this kind of subtype of disease, they are younger patients. So that is the sad part of it.
Okay, so a triple negative breast cancer is a much more aggressive breast cancer. Yeah.
Wow. Let me get the next question.
Azard, you don't have to keep shaking that ball.
So Dr. Osborne, What is an axillary lymph node dissection?
Okay, all right, you said it correctly. Axillary lymph node dissection. That's part of the treatment for breast cancer. It's where, once you're doing the mastectomy, you're removing the breast, you go under the axilla and you're removing some of the lymph nodes. So sometimes our patients, after they have surgery, they have a little cut under their arm and they feel a little bit of discomfort. The objective of the lymph node dissection is to remove some of these nodes and send them to be tested, because you want to know if the cancer that started in the breast has spread over to those lymph nodes. It is important for staging. It's also going to be very important for treating the patient. And it also tells you what the prognosis is going to be like, because it's not the same if you have one of those nodes positive or if you have 3 or 6. And it all depends on how many nodes you get. You send them to be tested by the pathologist, and he'll give you the final results to let you know if these nodes that are under the axilla are infiltrated or they have cancer inside of them. And that is why it's important, because then you want to then gear your treatment to ensure that you kill all of these cancer cells.
Yes. A very good response.
It seems like a Miss Universe competition. If any one of our listening audience want to call in, they can call in at this time too and interrupt us at any time.
Yes. So, Dr. Leon, I'm going back to you. And this question, I know you have it. I know you have this answer. What is chemotherapy?
Okay, so chemotherapy is one of the treatment that we use for patients. We must have to say that chemo for me is really valuable in order to treating patients, because the goal of the treatment is kill the remaining cells, malignant cells that could be in the body. We have different settings that we can use chemotherapy. We can use chemotherapy before surgery. We call that neoadjuvant treatment, and is for reduce the tumoral size in order to get the surgery done. We also can use in the adjuvant setting when the patient already have the surgery done, and we can use during other treatment. We call that concurrent chemotherapy, when we use both treatment together, for example, radiation along with chemotherapy. And the last use for chemotherapy is in palliative setting. That is the patient that what we want to achieve with the treatment is to reduce the pain, to improve the symptom of the patient, but the goal in that case is not cure.
Okay.
Okay. So,
the silence is killing me.
Oh my gosh.
The level of seriousness that you have going on here.
Dr. Osman, this one is for you.
Really?
And I know you have this as well. So I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to ask it twice, and then you could give your response. So, what is inflammatory breast cancer? What is inflammatory breast cancer?
Okay, inflammatory breast cancer. That's a different type of breast cancer. We've mentioned in the weeks before the different types of breast cancer. It is an infiltrating or very aggressive breast cancer of that a patient can develop. It is normally seen in patients that are a little bit older. It is represent a small percentage of the population, about 1 to 4% of patients can develop this breast cancer. There's not going to be a specific lump in the breast, but the entire lump is enlarged or swollen. It's going to be red commonly, it's warm, and you see some dimpling that you may have there on the breast. So the female will usually observe that one of her breasts is much larger than the other, and it progresses so quickly. What is happening in this inflammatory breast cancer? The small vessels or the vasculature or the lymphatic vessels, they become blocked and they become swollen. So the entire breast becomes swollen, and it appears with a lot of small dimples, almost like an orange. If you see the skin of an orange, it has that characteristic. And it's a French term that we use, pot orange, or orange peel appearance. So it's going to be red, it's going to be warm, it's going to be swollen. And these patients need to be treated immediately, because this form of breast cancer, although very rare, can be very aggressive.
Okay. We are at 9:15.
Yes.
Yeah, 15 minutes remaining and a couple questions to go. So you guys are halfway there, okay? So. You know whose question this is?
No, I
I
don't.
have no idea.
Okay. Well, Dr. Leon, you are the one who is chosen, for this question. This question was made just for you. So it is, what factors determine the outcome of breast cancer?
Okay, that is an important question because we have different factors in consideration in order to say the patient what is the prognosis, right? First of all, we have the tumoral side, how big the tumor is, that is a main factor. We also have how many lymph nodes are infiltrating for the cancer. We usually say that patients that have more than 3 lymph nodes infiltrating, they have a poor prognosis, or really, or the prognosis is worse. We also consider the spread of the disease to other organs. We are talking about stage 4, when the disease already spread to the lungs, to the liver, to other organs. That is an important factor. How fast the tumor grows is also an important criterion in order to determine the prognosis of the patient. And this factor, the biopsy report is the one that telling me what is the growing, how fast the tumor is growing in the body. So basically, that is the 4 things. We also have the differentiation of the tumor. We know that we have well-differentiated tumor, moderate differentiated tumor, indifferentiate tumor. The biopsy will give in that information to us, and when the patient have a poor differentiation in the tumor, also lead to a poor outcome. So basically, this is all the factors that we consider in order to give a prognosis to the patient. And how the patient responds to treatment also is important, because we know that not everybody responds the same way to treatment. So that is also important.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Leon, you may have a moment to catch your breath, and we have another question. Important questions here this morning, So, why is chemotherapy sometimes given before surgery in patients with breast cancer? So I'm going to ask it again. Why is chemotherapy sometimes given before surgery in patients with breast cancer?
Well, in that cases, we use the chemo in order to shrink the tumor. They mean to reduce the tumoral size, because what we want to achieve with the surgery is to clean, that the margin of the surgery will be completely clean of the tumor. No malignant cell could be remain in the body. So what we want to achieve with that kind of treatment that we call neoadjuvant chemotherapy is to reduce the tumoral size as much as possible. In order to the surgery in the second time, they will do a proper surgery and they clean all the tumor for the body.
And also is important too, because sometimes if you reduce the size of the tumor adequately, you can avoid having a mastectomy, or you can have a surgery that is much more conservative, because some females may not, or may prefer not to to undergo a mastectomy. So that patient, once the tumor has shrunken, you can do a conservative surgery where you just remove the tumor or do a partial mastectomy. So it also helps in that as well too. And of course, it's killing any cells that may be found anywhere in the body. Yeah.
Okay.
Seem to have all the angels in heaven in the studio this morning.
Why is that?
When it comes to Dr. Osborne's questions, she does come with all these big.
You taking any phone calls?
Yes, we are. We're taking phone calls at any time. Go ahead.
So, what is prophylactic Yeah,
Let me see what you've got there.
She has like two big medical terms right there.
Okay, what is a prophylactic mastectomy? But you've said mastectomy before, so it can't be that big. Prophylactic.
Yes.
Okay, so prophylactic simply means doing it before, just as preventative. Or let's take a prophylactic medication, so you prevent yourself from having a pain or something
so
like
it's
that.
like a preemptive
Yes,
mastectomy.
preemptive. So why do we do that? Sometime a woman may have the genes for breast cancer, and she has a family or she's had multiple family members who would have had breast cancer, and she said, I'm going to try to stay ahead of this. I'm going to have prophylactic mastectomy. You remember the story with Angelina Jolie? She had both of her breasts removed prophylactically because she had the BRCA gene, and her mother had passed away from ovarian cancer. And we've had patients too. There was one particular patient. Oh, there's a question?
It was a call.
We do have a call. Yeah.
Okay, yes, go
Okay.
right
Caller,
ahead.
go ahead, Alice, and thanks for your patience.
Oh, yes, good morning to all.
Good morning, Miss
Good
Henry.
morning.
Boy, I see that I have you stumbling.
Yeah, these medical terms always is the case.
We couldn't send you to the spelling bee.
I did the chemistry and the biology, but it's always
I know,
these
but not
medical
the spelling bee, not
terms.
the spelling bee. No, the other day I listened to that announcement of somebody in the 90s, nearly 100. And they were thanking people from the oncology unit.
Oh, thank you.
At what age do you stop treating people like that? That's one the question.
Good
And
question.
if from your diagnosis, the person is the fourth stage also,
Yes.
do you still recommend treatment when you know that, because it is very expensive, and some people choose to go abroad, make it even worse. So at what point do you tell the patient that they should just get the house in order, as the Bible says?
Okay. Good
Well, I
question.
say so. My husband had was diagnosed with fourth stage colon cancer, and he inquired about it, and he was told up front, which I think was good, that given the state of your health and the stage of the cancer, go and start the praying. So I was amazed at somebody 90-something talking about oncology. At what age or what stage do you stop? You understand? Remember I start
Yes,
right?
thank you. Yes, so we would respond to the
All
question.
right.
Okay, so we do the staging of the patient, but the most important is in all the staging we do treatment. What is different is the goal of the treatment. For example, in stage 4, our goal is not cure the patient. What we want to do is palliation. They mean we want to reduce the growing of the tumor. We want to the patient to live longer with less symptoms, because we know when the tumor spread to other organ, that is the stage 4, they may have a lot of symptoms. For example, pain. They can have in the location. For example, you mentioning that your husband have a stage 4 colon cancer. They usually spread to the liver, so the patient could have difficulty for eating. So during the treatment, the goal of the treatment is to improve that kind of symptoms. We know that is really difficult because the costing of the treatment is high. But what we want to achieve with the patient is that they pass the last stage of the disease in the better condition possible. So that is the goal. And the other thing, we don't see the age like a limiting to do chemotherapy. We have different modality of chemo. We can use chemo orally, that is not so aggressive, and mostly of the patient tolerate this kind of treatment really good. So the age is not a limiting. My oldest patient that I treated was 91 years old, and she passed away for other condition. Wow. She didn't die about cancer, and she was a stage 4 breast cancer. So always the family environment, what the patient wants, we consider that when we're going to give in that kind of treatment. And we have to discuss really carefully with all the members, and the patient have the last word. If they don't want to go with treatment, we don't do nothing.
Excellent point. And just to add, because she emphasized that the patient was 91, persons have different health their condition, their overall condition is different irrespective of their age. We've had patients who are 84, 85, and they're very active, they're very healthy overall. And there was a particular case of a lady, because in that question, following up, there are certain standards where certain institutions or societies indicate that you do not need a mammogram after a certain age. We've had a patient who was told she doesn't need a mammogram because she was 80 plus, and then because she was faithful all her years doing her screening mammograms, and when she stopped doing her mammogram, she developed a breast cancer and had to have a surgery. So it all depends on the overall health and condition as well of the patient, because we've got some patients who are in their late 80s that are in very good condition. And also, if you're thinking about treatment from a surgical point of view, even though the patient has stage 4 breast cancer, for example, you may choose to do a mastectomy or just remove the breast so that the cancer doesn't erode to the breast and become very deformative, very disruptive to the patient's life. So sometimes it's not just to cure it, it's to make the person's life more comfortable. Because if you have a breast cancer and it's not treated, it's going to then break through the skin, it's going to become very foul smelling, very unpleasant to
the patient
live
can
with.
bleeding, have a lot of complications, infections, so it's better to do something.
So we were talking about the prophylactic mastectomy, just to end that latter part. So, and we've had patients that develop breast cancer in one breast, and when they're going in for surgery, they decide, doc, let's just remove both breasts because I don't want to have to come back. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I want to be able to move on and live my life. So that is what a prophylactic mastectomy is. Just removing the breast prophylactically so that you don't have to deal with the breast cancer later on in life.
Yes. Okay, so the next question. Dr. Leon.
The silence is so different.
What are some of the side effects of chemotherapy?
Okay, so we have different symptomatology during the treatment. We have to mention it that the goal of the chemo is kill the malignant cell, but also the good cells in the body could be affected during the process. The good cells in the body, they have the ability to recover more, faster. And because in the process we kill some cells, but other remain there. So most of the side effect or symptoms that the patient could experience could be loss of the hair. They can have damage in the nail. The gastrointestinal toxicity or symptoms are also frequently such as nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation. The other symptoms that we most often see in the population, because the symptomatology could be changed accordingly to the population that you treat. Here in the Federation, the blood toxicity is the most common when we see that the patient have the immune system low. They could have anemia. They also could have the platelets, that is the cells in the body to avoid to bleed low. So that is the most frequently one, right? Patients know what I'm talking about. When your cells that defend your body are low, you can be able to get infection, so you are more susceptible to get infection. So that is the most frequently toxicity we see in our patients. Also, the testing of the food could change. They spread that they have a metallic testing to the food. So digesting symptomatology and the hematological symptomatology are the most common.
Okay. So your nausea, your vomits, your upset stomach, your diarrhea, all those things. You get infections quite easily because some of your white blood cells are destroyed in the process. Yeah.
So this one is Dr. Osborne. What is a mammogram and its importance?
I think that's a perfect question. I don't know if that's going to end us off, because this wraps up what we've been doing here all month. The goal ultimately, yes, is that we get persons being proactive, getting their screening mammograms, getting the early diagnosis if it does appear, and so that they can be treated and go on to survive this disease, because we're having so many persons surviving this disease and living with this disease. That is the goal, and that ultimately is what we want. So a mammogram is nothing more than an x-ray of the breast. You've gone for chest x-ray before, you've gone for x-rays of your limbs, so you're looking at the breast, looking for changes in the breast. You may have small little spots, like whitish spots. We call them microcalcification. Those are early signs that there may be a breast cancer developing. So it's important. We recommend screening mammograms yearly, usually after the age of 40. So this is what we're doing, and ultimately we want to make sure and encourage any woman who's never had a mammogram to start getting a mammogram. She could decide to go and get a mammogram done today. It is very important. So then you have a baseline mammogram, and as you go yearly to do it, your physician can make comparison, look at the changes that are being made, and if there is a change or anything suspicious, it can be biopsied. And if there is a disease found, it is diagnosed early, and the treatment can be implemented as quickly as possible. So,
okay, and on that we end today's show as it relates to this segment, medical dose, weekly dose, our medical segment on Island T every Tuesday at 9 a.m. to 9:30.
You know, I told you about 15 minutes ago. Candy was there the whole time.
Oh, but because of how we had
we could have just said hi.
Oh, Candy.
She's there?
Yes.
Candy, I've missed you.
Candy, for the record, I told him about 15 minutes ago when you joined.
Yes, he did. Yeah. But we're all in the...
No problem. Good morning, everyone.
Hey, Candy, how are you doing? I've missed you.
I missed you guys. I'm here.
Next time, you've got to be here in person. I've got to see your face. So we've missed you all month when we've been celebrating breast cancer awareness. Do you have any comment?
Right? The only female host there.
Yes.
I definitely will make up for it.
I hope
Candy, her animation just kicked into a higher gear when she realized you're on, you know. That level of energy.
I feel robbed that the female host was not here.
And you know, I hope she's wearing pink.
And
you know,
some jealousy here.
She better not be there sitting and not wearing pink and getting all of this, you know, hype
and adoration and love and missing. No, but if you want to, I'll miss you the same way. So thank you.
I know. And we're gonna take our, we take our pictures after. So Candy.
Show off. I want to be zoomed into that pic.
Yeah, no, you're gonna miss that one. But we're gonna have our next guest right up next. It's Carl Astafan, and so you'll be able to get that snap. Well, your take with that segment.
It's very nice to be here with you guys, and I thought we had an awesome segment. Thank you so much for the information.
Yes, we're gonna take a shot.
All doctors.
Yes.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Magnum, my brand. Everybody put a Magnum in the air now. From you a drink Magnum, make me see. Take charge of things now your place now. From the river to the beach to the street. Hot Magnum when me have in a me hand there. Here a sipper, she tell me sweet. Look for me watch for your quick time check. Yeah. Right now a Magnum for your beat. Enjoy yourself every day of the week with a Magnum. My life I forget sweeter. Must be 18 years and older to drink. Drink responsibly.
When you need better service, Rams is
And we are back. It's 9:35, and we got Candy with us today, our erstwhile prodigal guest host. Not guest host. What am I saying? Host. Prodigal.
Our prodigal host.
Prodigal host. And we have Carla Astafan this morning.
The prodigal host. Wow.
Yes. So, and this morning we have Carla Astafan, and we're going to be talking about reparations. You know, Carla just there was an article that was written by Miss Astafan, and it was published in the Jamaican Observer.
Gleaner.
Oh, the Gleaner, yes,
Yeah.
the Jamaican Gleaner. And so, you know, we're going to be going through that and what is happening as it relates to reparations and how far are we in the fight, especially from this standpoint.
Good morning, Carla.
Good
How are you?
morning. I am good. Did you get a chance to read the article?
I did.
Okay, good. So I guess that's a good place for us to jump off, because I want to give the background. People may be wondering what this is about.
Yes.
So basically, you know, the global, what I will answer your question, the global reparations movement is really picking up steam. And, you know, over the years, CARICOM reparations, we've been having meetings, symposiums, retreats, and all of this. But more importantly, the push so that persons who are descendants of those who benefited from the wealth generated over the centuries through involvement in slavery, some are coming to the fore and have made some gestures at reparatory justice. Here in St. Kitts, I received an email. This article that I wrote has to do with a planter who once owned estates on St. Kitts. Specifically, he owned estates at Spooners. He sold the estate, but at the time of abolition, he owned an estate at Phillips's and at Confip's estate. His name was Benjamin Green. Now, how did I get that information? On May 15th, I received an email that was dated August 17th, 2020. So it was basically almost 3 years old. And that email was sent to the Ministry of Tourism. I guess it ended up in the junk at that time, you know, or somewhere in there. It was sent to info at tourism. So it was sent by a historian named Arisa Lumba. And she had just completed her master's degree and was doing a series of podcasts. And she was speaking specifically about the Green King breweries. Now, there's a line of pubs in England called Green King breweries. Green King breweries was started by Benjamin Green. Benjamin Green started off his life with a very humble circumstances. He was a brewer in St. Edmunds in the UK. And through his friendship with a planter, Henry Blake, who also owned plantations on St. Kitts, he would purchase plantations on St. Kitts and ended up owning more than one estate. So his wealth grew. He sent his son, Benjamin Buck Green, down here to manage the estates. And later, he sent his another son. When Benjamin Buck Green went back to England, he sent his other son, Charles Green, to continue the work. Charles was a young man, and he spent a few years here. It is said he fathered quite a few children here, so it is possible that those with the surname Green may have come from that lineage. As a matter of fact, I think one of the articles I read while I was doing my research, someone who belongs to that family came here in the 1970s, and the article referred to them as the colored Greens. Okay, but anyway, the reason Arisa wrote to us is because Green King pubs had said that at the time in 2020, on the heels of the, that movement in the States, well, they had the, what's his name again? The May, it had happened in May. It's in the article. On the heels of when they sat on his neck, his name always, I always forget the name. Let me see if I can find it in my article.
Floyd? Is it the George Floyd?
Yes, right. So in August 2022, with growing pressure after the brutal murder of George Floyd in the United States, many companies started reviewing their position in relation to racial equity and their links to enslavement. So Green King's CEO in 2020, Nick McKenzie, he issued an apology, given that the original owner, Benjamin Green, benefited from slavery, and he also had provided very staunch support for slavery during that time. So he was an advocate against abolition. So he promised donations to the Black, Asian, and minority ethnic groups in the UK as a form of reparatory justice. I think they also made the donations to Liverpool Museum for the creation of something specific to slavery. However, our governments here in St. Kitts, I guess, Arisa wrote the email and in her email she asked, what do we think? Because they were interested in making some sort of donation. What do you think this gesture would look like? When I got the email, I was quite excited about it. And I wrote back to her. I've never heard back from her. But over the months, as it kept bugging me and I kept going back to it, other historians, the thing is, we are in these small islands, I will tell you. I was reading Dr. Veryn Shepherd's book, Reparations for Secondary School, and she brought up Green King pubs. But I did not see any mention of St. Kitts. I had spoken to a friend of mine who is a PhD, and he said in a lecture he gave in 2019, he too had mentioned Green King. But no one I said, but you never mentioned St. Kitts. He said, no. So you see the islands, Jamaica, Guyana, Trinidad, those places, Barbados, you hear more about their histories. You hear more about what they are doing. So we here in St. Kitts, Benjamin Green got compensated for enslaved people on St. Kitts and on Montserrat. About 6 people on Montserrat, 200 and something people on St. Kitts. Okay? So if they are making some form of reparatory justice, what of St. Kitts was my thing. So I reached out.
And it's good to give the account to St. Kitts, because often, as you said, you hear about the larger territories.
Yes.
And we have been just as active when it comes to, what has...
Yeah. So I was at my wit's end. I wasn't hearing back from the historian. I looked at the website for Green King, and I decided to look up their CEO, Nick McKenzie. I found him on LinkedIn, and I sent him a message explaining, about the fact that they had made this apology, but what of an apology to the people of St. Kitts? What of some form of reparatory justice to the island of St. Kitts? And so he wrote back to me. I was ready the next day. He told me he was on vacation, but he's put me in touch with his personal assistant. And later on, I received an email from their communications person. That email from Azard Malik, who is the chief communications and sustainability officer of Green King Pubs, said in 1836, Benjamin Green passed the control of the brewery to Bury St. Edmunds, to another of his sons, Edward, who was not involved in plantations at St. Kitts. While the company still bears the name Green King, none of the descendants are now involved in the management of the company. The actions of Benjamin Green are part of our company's history that we cannot change, but we have been focused on what we can do in the present and the future by making substantial financial investments to support race diversity in our business, and we aspire to be an inclusive employer and a truly anti-racist organization. We of the St. Kitts Nevis National Reparations Committee see this as an unsatisfactory answer, okay? Because the family would not have had the wherewithal to start or to push that company had it not been for the wealth they generated from slavery. I say this, and this is the case for many who got wealth out of their role in slavery. Okay? Yes, when CARICOM is targeting, they're targeting governments. So the England, when you're looking at England, you're looking at the royals, you're looking at the prime ministers and so on, the government of England, because generally England, France, Spain, the Dutch, the Danish, the Swedes, all of them had some role to do, to some extent, in slavery. However,
Carla, one of the things I wanted to say was kudos. First of all, to even put together the article, I was pretty impressed with that. But I'm also now more impressed that you hunted the CEO down, because when I read that the email had been sent since 2020, and I'm like, this is 3 years now. What in the world is happening? And then I kept reading, because I'm like, okay, so where does she send back an email? Where does this woman respond? What's happening? And so I was kind of disappointed at one point in the article, but then I see that you kind of forged ahead. So I'm happy for that. I'm really hoping that something comes out of it, because for them to not mention St. Kitts was already a big enough of a blunder, knowing that we had 2 estates here.
Yes,
So,
in the articles I read online, they did mention St. Kitts and Montserrat, but they did not make contact with us, except for that writer who's Arisa, was doing some podcasts. We had no contact with Green King specifically, so they did not write to our government and say, well, this is, they were doing something in England. The black Asian and ethnic groups are not us. This is something that happened here. That was what I felt. And so just like recently we saw the Trevelyan's, we saw the Gladstones and so on go to Guyana and so on, we need, for families, and as a matter of fact, let me say it here as well, there's a group that has been formed in England, descendants of persons whose wealth was generated, whose families benefited from slavery. They on the hills of Laura Trevelyan, they have formed this group, and so they are going to start making some form of reparatory justice to these islands where their families would have gained wealth. So I felt the Green King needs to do the same, and this is in that vein that I wrote to them.
And you said today you haven't gotten back, but you're still in contact with his.
Yeah, well, I wrote back to Asid Malik, of course. When I got that email, I wrote back to him, and I told him we are not satisfied with that answer, basically, and I explained myself, and so he responded to me and said they will be back in touch with me again. So since then, now that the article is published, last night I got an email from someone, and he actually copied, I don't know who this person is, but they found my email, and they actually copied Arisa Lumba in it. So I guess they're a friend of hers. So it's gotten some
traction.
It's gotten some traction. Yes.
Okay then. Well, we're grateful for whatever little bit attention we can bring to it, because I know, knowing you, you're going to expand it, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, so this is where we're at. Now, one of the things I wanted to bring up, we have, and I guess we will need some help doing the research, of families. There's one friend of mine who actually sent me a link to one of his families, his ancestors. He sent me a link to that. So we can start digging into our own histories. One friend of mine tagged me in a post this morning and said, and I'll call his name because it's on social media, Garfield. Garfield actually tagged me in a post about, what about families, businesses here on St. Kitts who benefited from, whose wealth, even up to this day, is as a result of slavery, what they gained from slavery. So he asked these questions. Who are the richest families in St. Kitts and Nevis? How did they gain their wealth or inheritances? who are the largest landowners in St. Kitts and Nevis outside of the government, and how did they end up owning all these lands? So, okay, so these are important questions, not only for St. Kitts, for Nevis, for Dominica, for throughout the islands. And he's not the first person to bring up that subject. As a matter of fact, I read an article some years ago about the Jamaica Chamber of Industry and Commerce, and that writer was saying a lot of the persons, some of the persons who were involved in that chamber, their roots are also go back to slavery. So this is an area definitely that I want to dig into some more.
Carla,
Yes.
is that usually the way you guys trace the history? Do you usually start with what you just mentioned, like who are the richest families, who are the biggest and richest companies, the biggest landowners, and then you trace it down? Is that the usual
well, that is
approach?
no. As I'm saying, that's a question. Those are questions that Garfield is asking. But the information is already there. If you go on University College of London website, I think I've shared that here on the show before. Yes. Legacies of British Slavery, and you put in St. Kitts, you will find out that 767 claims were paid out as compensation to owners of enslaved people. Of course, in that payout, you had people who had as little as 2 or 3 enslaved people, and there were people who had hundreds. So, for instance, the Blake family, okay, you had someone named Briscoe, you had McMahon, you had all of these different names who had, and the information is there for all to see, okay? Over in Nevis, there's the name I remember the name Atherton, it comes to mind. So there's many names that you can find. Of course, with 767, there are a lot of names and there's a lot of repeats. There's the Matthews, somebody named Matthew, who owned Buckley's estate. I remember looking at that. He had over 100 and something enslaved persons. So the history is there. Like my friend said to me yesterday, Britain was very good at keeping records. So the information is there. It's very easy for us to identify. And so, yeah, it is a part of what one can look at. Although we are looking, as I said, at the countries themselves, I think families also have responsibility to actually come on board as well. And not only families in Europe, but I think families here in the region.
And do we have a list here in St. Kitts of what reparations look like for us? Like, what are our goals? What are we aiming for?
Well, there's the CARICOM reparations 10-point plan, which talks about as number one, the apology, repatriation, financial transfer of let me pull it up. I sometimes, So transfer of knowledge, cultural knowledge, debt cancellation, and all of those things. But as part of being a part of CARICOM Reparations Commission, I can tell you that they are planning on revamping that 10-point plan. So that is something that's being looked at. As to one of the things that has come up at CARICOM meetings is that persons, for instance, the Trevelyan lady, Laura, she is donating 100. She's made a reparatory, created a fund for £100,000 sterling. Now, the Gladstone family came up and they made a similar thing. Is that suddenly, is that becoming the template? You understand?
Right.
Yeah, so that you just think that it's so easy that you could just create, give this £100,000 and that's it.
Shut us up.
Yeah, precisely. So it's something that all of that is being worked out because, we don't want them to think that this is a template, that this is what it is, that you just do that as a token, okay? So those are things we don't want. It's basically they are creating an agenda as opposed to us creating our own agenda, our own
So let me
markers.
ask you the question, because you've written to them, you have the article. What is your expectation from all of this?
Well, specific to Green King, I would expect they would make some gesture to St. Kitts and Nevis itself as a country, not just because of George Floyd. They came out in 2020 and said that, and then it's rushed under the table. It's done. You understand? So it seems to me like this was just okay. They recognize that, because when I got the response, I got that sense, like as if they've washed their hands of it. No, you still have a responsibility. You know, all of these companies who benefited, they all have a responsibility. So whether it is TDC and Horsford's here, whose genesis is in their great grandfathers or whatever were involved and they benefited, then is there a special reparatory fund that they can set up? You know, yes, I know they do a lot today. They have been doing a lot, but they too can also come out and say, you know, when we dig into our past, this is what we see. You know,
But
all
know,
of the.
I always wonder.
I know it's a ticklish one.
How do we hold their feet to the fire? I mean, yes, you contacted them, and yes, they responded. How do we see this to the end? How do we ensure that they follow through? What checks and balances do we have that can ensure that this is...
At the end of the day, I think it's all about their own desire to fix things. And so this is what we awaken them. I am saying we are awakening up their consciousness to that reality, that in this time, there is a need to repair, okay? People here know, people over there, all over, you know, people know the histories. So to come out and to say something in response to in this era of a growing global reparatory justice program, we really want to see companies, whether it's in England or wherever it is, including the Caribbean, come out and make some sort of statement, create some sort of fund as to repair. You know, you cannot fully repair for slavery, but you can do something so that people feel, okay, yes, they have done some gesture.
Okay. So I want to thank you, Miss Estefan, for, you know, coming this morning and sharing with us what you have done in the fight for reparations, and, you know,
it's continuing. It's going to continue. I'm going to be continuing doing work.
Yeah.
Candice, thanks a lot for your questions. You know.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Yes.
Thank you for writing the article, first of all. I'm a historian, and I was definitely intrigued when you sent it to me.
Okay.
So I've since shared it with one of my sisters that works at the museum. So I want to let you know that, you know, you can definitely tap into their resources for buffering and help.
I know I am kind of shy about writing. There's a lot more to write. You get very nervous. I would like to thank people like Mr. Gardner, who teaches my daughter history. I sent it to him to reread for me. I sent it to a friend of mine who has a PhD in history to overlook. I was asked to write the article by Dr. Vereen Shepherd, who you all know very well. She is in Jamaica. Yeah. She teaches, she's the history professor.
Yeah, at the UE.
She, knowing, you know, I had copied them on the emails that I had received, and she said, why don't you do a biographical piece on Benjamin Green? So I had to do some, you know, I pushed and so hopefully that will, you know, reach them, and they will, of course, it will awaken their consciences as well.
Yes.
So that's where we are.
Awesome. So guys, I want to say thank you. Thank you to our listeners.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. And should we share the website?
Yes.
They can look up, jamaicagleaner.com, the article by Carla Astafan, Benjamin Green, and his role in slave trade.
Yes.
Okay.
And
well,
thank you so much, and continue to forge on ahead.
Thank you.
Yes. Actually, I was reading the article as you guys were speaking. I'm very impressed. You're like a man. You're like a solid historian.
Right?
Yeah, I know.
It gives very strong professor vibes.
Did you want me, Candy? You want me to send it to you?
I have it.
Oh, you
He
have
sent
it. Okay. All right. Okay.
I read
Cool.
it.
Yeah, I was here reading. Well, what I found interesting is the fact that you realize, Azard, that and
Yes.
Candy, a lot of estates. Carla, put on your headphones before you go. Yeah. The premier's press conference is coming up next. We're going to be joining that as soon as it starts. But I wanted to say, one of the things I noticed is that you realize a lot of the estate names aren't necessarily correlate with the person who owns them. So I think what happened is probably a lot of estates change hands over the years. Maybe given that the sugar industry and the plantation industry started so far back, you could have had situations where someone could have maybe after 100 years they sold it to someone else.
Yes,
Because
that happened quite
yeah,
a bit. But
'cause-
actually, someone sent me a map. If you let me see, let me pull it up. I can tell you the names. There's a McMahon map of what year was it? Let me see if I can find it. But his name is on the map for at the place of the estates. So there's a map. I actually cut it here.
Yeah, because I noticed.
Yeah, so you can see.
I know he owned Phillips's and Confips, but
Yeah.
those are different names.
Mhm,
And Green, I never associated Green with a planter.
Right.
Being a planter's name,
But there's quite a lot. His name appeared the parish of St. Mary, Keon. So, and I'm seeing there the surnames, Otleys, as I said.
Is it possible that's where Green Hill came from? Or maybe it's just Green Hill as in green, but as opposed to
No.
Green, even though we know they spell it Green.
Green.
But probably not, because someone who might have said something. I know they call up sometimes you go up, there's an area they call Whites, so that's a whole other.
Yeah, so there's in Keon you had Spooners, which was owned by
Yeah.
Charles Spooner. You had William Otley. You had, these quite a bit of names. In Woodley is a name that pops up there in Christchurch, Nicola Town. Yes.
But he wouldn't know about the last name Woodley.
Yes, the name was William Woodley.
Jamster won't know about Woodley.
Jamster
in fact, perhaps Trevor Woodley would know, but not Jamster. Jamster and Trevor Woodley are two different people.
Don't make me come over there.
Yes, and William Woodley owned quite a number of estates.
Laugh it up.
Yeah. Jamster don't feel bad.
No.
I mean, the thing
it
is,
sounds as though Jamster is really interested.
I have some ancestor. I have an ancestor that I discovered. I've said that before.
I know there is a not plantation, an estate manager somewhere in the bloodline, but I didn't realize. I hope not. Really hope not.
There's Thomas Montgomery. Thomas Montgomery was always loaning out. The Estridge.
You need to send me that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
right.
I'm gonna have to kick you guys out now.
You see, he tell us come and then after boom. So guys, see you tomorrow.
Thank you. All
Oh,
right.
and interestingly, I'm seeing that October 26th is the PLP's press conference, which is Thursday.
Yeah.
So, guys, stick and stay. We have